So today we continue our dive into some slightly stranger looking movies. And this one stars Willem Dafoe and has the tagline "An exploration into the language of dreams." Which definitely sounds interesting, and it's just the kind of thing Dafoe is perfectly suited for. Because he's done some strange movies in the past, even just in the last couple of years. I mean, he was brilliant in The Lighthouse and in that Van Gogh movie too. So I could easily see him being great in something like this as well. But what is the story here and what's the movie actually about? Well, that's a tricky one. Because, actually, let's just start at the beginning, shall we? And go from there. So the movie opens up with this little monologue, narration type thing while the opening credits roll. And I loved that part. I thought it was very well written, so it was off to a great start. Can't really ask for more than that. Then we get into the actual movie and we're introduced to this guy, who apparently lives in the middle of nowhere in the Canadian wilderness. It's wintertime and he runs some sort of a little bar or rest place for weary travelers who come through. Not entirely sure what's going on there, but that seems to be the general idea. Okay, so we have sort of a normal setup here for something to build on. But it became apparent very quickly that this is probably not going to be your average movie. Because the first thing I noticed was that it was doing some strange cuts. Some interesting editing making you wonder what exactly is going on. It also introduces several characters that don't speak English, and I didn't have subtitles for those portions. But I think that was entirely intentional, because the main character didn't really understand them either. And then we suddenly have a very strange and super abrupt cut, and the movie basically went nuts for about 30 seconds. Which is then followed up by another very toned down and serene scene where not much happens. So yeah, this one definitely doesn't seem too concerned with following a traditional narrative. Also, the next scene flows into another scene that came out of nowhere and made me go, well, okay then. Because it was certainly something else, and I'm still not sure what I just witnessed, but it was disturbing. Easily the most disturbing moment of the movie, and one of the strangest. And it definitely was starting to seem like this guy, our protagonist, was starting to lose it. Maybe he was developing a case of cabin fever, being cooped up by himself for too long. But I think that might have been too much of a literal interpretation of what was going on, because this one just gets less and less focused on attempting to create any sort of concrete narrative. Instead it gets stranger, trippier, and seems to focus on the main character's inner thoughts. Because there are definitely prevailing themes of guilt and regret here. But the filmmaking itself I was actually sort of a fan of because, first of all, I like the cinematography a lot. It's just a visually pleasing movie. And at times it gave me almost Malick-esque vibes as well, which I appreciate. And then you inject some Lynchian elements into the movie and it creates a very strange but fascinating mix. One that I couldn't help but to like, despite of how odd and unorthodox it was. And I feel like that also had a lot to do with the tone, because it had hints of humor to it, which just made the movie as a whole feel less pretentious and self-serious than it would have otherwise. And I think the song choice for the end credits was pretty much the perfect example of that, because it was hilarious. Now with that being said, did I love this movie? No, but I sorta liked it. I mean, I have no clue what the point of it was, or what was going on half the time. And I can absolutely see why someone might hate this, because it's a weird one and not very approachable. But I liked it, and I'm tempted to give it a higher score than it probably objectively deserves. However, let's just be a little bit conservative and call it a solid 6. Boop. But would I recommend it? I mean, if you're feeling adventurous, go for it. But I definitely wouldn't tell the average moviegoer to check this one out. So, probably skip this one or take a chance and watch it anyway. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic.